I'm Joe Kane.
I'm Dan Kane.
I'm Sal Conca.
Welcome to the Imperfect Podcast.
Don't forget to check us out at hecklerkane.com.
To the bumper. In the news.
This week in the world of comics, Dolph Lundgren stars as Big Bad in Russian flashback sequences in the next season of Arrow. This is the 5th season and should mark the end of Oliver's flashbacks from his missing time in the series.
We also see a return of Gorilla Grodd in the new season of Flash. It has been confirmed that there will be a 2-part episode featuring Gorilla City. They have also confirmed a 2-part crossover episode with Supergirl and the Flash.
More on the comic book TV series front. Gotham has cast Benedict Samuel as the Mad Hatter. He will appear in the 3rd episode of Season 3, and Samuel will be a season regular. On the topic of casting, IGN reports that Legends of Tomorrow has cast Sarah Gray as Stargirl. Gray is also set to appear in the upcoming Power Rangers movie.
Well, Sal, I think you got your wish. It looks like there won't be any sequels for the new Ghostbuster reboot. The unfortunate box office numbers left the series $75 million in the hole. That's the news. Suicide Squad in review.
So last week we went out and we saw the Suicide Squad movie that we were all excited about coming out for a while, and we had heard a lot of bad things about it.
Well, we like to make our own impressions on movies. There's a lot of critics out there that bash things, so we didn't want to just go into the movie with any sort of expectations from someone's review of it.
Right.
And we saw it opening night, so...
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, there's 2 camps in the world, right? You have your comic book fans, you have your movie fans, you have your DC fans, you have your Marvel fans. You guys are obviously way more into comic books than I am. I did not read comics growing up. I was fans of certain movies like Batman and Superman growing up and all that type of stuff. But Suicide Squad, I didn't know a lot about going into it, other than leading up to the promos and everything else that I heard and saw Comic-Con with like Conan O'Brien and other stuff like that.
Right.
Well, you know what? Being a comic book fan, this was a movie to look forward to. This was a movie where you were getting to see a bunch of these characters on screen in live action form for the first time. Mm-hmm. You've never seen Harley Quinn on camera before. You've never seen Deadshot. You've never seen Captain Boomerang. You've never seen most of those characters. You haven't seen. Mm-hmm. So looking at this and going, okay, well, we have a new movie that's coming out. It's all of these things. There's high expectations for it.
Mm-hmm.
I was looking forward to seeing Harley Quinn.
And what do you think? So did Margot Robbie deliver?
She did. I think she did very well. I enjoyed the parts that she was in. I thought she played the part very well, actually. She was my favorite role in the movie.
Yeah, I actually did. Silly me. I sometimes, actors, you see them on screen and you forget, like, making the correlation. I mean, I actually loved her in Wolf of Wall Street. Mm-hmm. That's how I knew her first. And I the whole time, I couldn't figure out. I knew I had heard that damn accent somewhere before. And she was using pretty much the same Long Island accent from Wolf of Wall Street as Harley Quinn. Now, I thought she was still brilliant in the role. I thought she was the best thing, and that's just not a guy's perspective on seeing a great ass on screen. Yeah, well, she was the best thing about that movie.
Mm-hmm. She was absolutely the quintessential Harley Quinn. She got a lot of the quips in that were well done, and sometimes it's hard to translate a comic or a cartoon into reality, and being able to deliver certain lines like the puddin' lines and some of the other lines that she did are difficult to do as an actor.
And let's put it this way, I mean, that character in itself had to be played by somebody who's a little off their nut. Like, you know what I mean? I mean, it was not a straightforward character. I mean, if you looked at like Deadshot, Will Smith was Will Smith, and I think that was part of the problem. Yeah. He didn't really make a character out of it. I've seen Will Smith deliver those lines in other movies.
In other movies.
I
enjoyed them, but it was just Will Smith. You know what I mean?
It was Will Smith. It was the same character he played when he first started out on the big screen in Independence Day so many years ago.
It was Hancock again.
It was Hancock again.
I wasn't that thrilled. I mean, the writing for him. And I don't know if his lines were improv and that was Will being Will, or did the writers write some of those one-liners from? They were cheesy. I mean, not like comic book good cheesy. They were just shit cheese.
Well, let me tell you something. Looking at these characters, there was a whole different thing coming out of these. These were, again, adaptations of something that was on either a cartoon or a piece of paper, and trying to bring these characters to life. So let's kind of do a quick rundown. We got the top two characters there, right. Deadshot and Harley Quinn.
Yeah.
What do we think of? I'm going to go there.
You want to go straight there?
Jared Leto's performance as the Joker. This seems to be the big crux.
Jared Leto is the biggest letdown of the movie. For me, he was one of the main reasons I think so many people and the critics trampled the movie. I mean, I think the Joker being the most iconic character, right, probably in the movie, because Joker's been portrayed on screen before. I mean, you had Jack Nicholson, you had Heath Ledger. 5 or 10 minutes into the movie, I had never missed Heath Ledger so much in my entire life. Thank you guys though for reminding me after the film, like, what a great job Jack Nicholson did at it. And Jared just didn't deliver for me. I know he didn't deliver for a lot of people. I mean, what do you guys think?
No. Not really. He didn't deliver it. But, I mean, you had pointed out before when we were talking that he wasn't in enough of the movie to really get a full feel, which is okay, but I didn't really enjoy. And you know what a big thing for me is? Getting the laugh right. And I didn't like his laugh, I guess, and that's a big part of being the Joker, is getting that laugh right. You know what I mean?
Okay, well, let me ask you something. Did we see enough of him to actually put a good judgment out there of how he portrayed the character?
Probably not.
I mean, he had a couple of big moments in the movie.
He did, absolutely, but I don't think anything was as crucial as what would be like a solo Batman movie where he would be the villain.
No, it was clearly, it was a subplot between the love story of Harley Quinn and the Joker that ran through the movie.
Right.
Harley Quinn's part was way bigger, obviously. I think the rumor, or it may have been confirmed if we read some of the news stories, but a lot of Jared Leto's scenes ended up on the cutting room floor. There was more footage in it.
I'm curious to see, like, when the DVD comes out, if they're going to put out those type of things onto the DVD and say, hey, well, here's what you missed.
Yep. Well, let's go.
You know what? I one more thing is that I get the Joker's supposed to care about Harley, but I almost felt like he cared too much. Like, Joker is not supposed to feel that much.
Joker is a psychopath, a psychopathic, disjunct person who has an infatuation with a particular person, but that doesn't mean that he cares about her. I felt like Jared Leto's version of it cared about her, and it wasn't the infatuation with her as opposed to. Yeah,
it was like he would have put everything on the line for her. And to me, Joker is. I like it, but it's,
And his interpretation, whatever. I mean, they made him. The Joker was always a gangster.
Sure.
But in this film, they took it to a common thug. It seemed like the Joker was playing, their interpretation of it was a common gangster. And, it's funny because today I read the band Die Antwoord is actually causing some controversy, saying that they stole Die Antwoord's personality or likeness for the movie to create the Joker and Harley Quinn, which is pretty ridiculous no matter how you look at it. But I mean, if you don't know who Die Antwoord is, go check them out on YouTube. They also did a movie. They're from South Africa. They're a South African rap group who actually did a movie called Chappie, and it's perfect for Saturday rainy afternoon if you got some time to kill. So what other characters do we think had some validity?
Amanda Waller. Amanda Waller was played by Viola Davis. She was definitely a strong character.
Yeah.
She showed us a side of Amanda Waller that we've never seen before.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Viola Davis is a great actress.
Yes, absolutely.
She absolutely is. And I enjoyed her role. As far as the Suicide Squad, that after Harley, the person I probably enjoyed the next after that was Diablo. I enjoyed him in the movie.
Diablo was probably had the biggest arc in the whole story.
Yeah, he was the culmination of the movie, right, so to speak. So he delivered. I liked him. I didn't. Who was the actor that played Diablo?
Diablo was played by Jay Hernandez.
Okay. Has he been in anything previously?
Hernandez is
Hostel.
Was in Hostel.
Ah, cool.
Bad Moms, which is coming out, I think, and a couple other ones. Trooper, Ghost Girls, Nashville. He was on. That's probably where I would recognize.
I know him from Hostel. He played one of the kids.
Yeah,
as soon as they said that, I'm thinking. I mean, it's hard because his face is all tattooed up. You know, as Diablo, and so you can't really get a good look at his face. But he did a great job. I think he did a great job as Diablo. His character had some depth. He was kind of one of the bad guys that was conflicted with being good or bad, or keeping his powers at bay because he didn't want to do bad anymore. I mean, basically, right? I mean, we can give away spoilers. I mean, you find out, he killed his whole family and because of his powers. So I thought it was a great character.
Yeah. He had a great story arc. That was just period. He had a great story arc, and it was surprising in the end what happened, and he turns into one of these celestial beings that were on the end. And again, we're giving out spoilers, so there's no two ways about it. So any more characters pop out for you guys?
There were some that were pointless, if that counts as popping. I mean, I think Boomerang was pretty useless.
Number one useless character in the entire film.
Yeah.
There was no reason for him to be there. If he was not in the film, there would have been no difference to the film, and it would have been one less thing to try to keep track of.
Right.
I thought Dan loved his Boomerang drone so much.
That was his one point, but I guess it wasn't totally necessary when he threw the boomerang and they could see what was going on with Enchantress at the end. And
okay, well, let me ask you something. Right before that scene, they're in the bar, and Boomerang goes, "I'm out of here, I'm done," and he leaves.
Right.
And then all of a sudden they're like, okay, yeah, they get the whole band back together, and they come out on the street, and Boomerang's with them again.
Yeah, I know. He should have been cut down like Slipknot was.
Yeah, well,
but he served more of a purpose. Slipknot, because he was the guy that needed to explode to prove that they were real about the bomb in their neck.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So he actually did serve a purpose.
Absolutely served a purpose, dying early.
And the only other useless character we haven't discussed was Katana, because I hated the way she was introed into the movie. To be honest,
I would have liked to have seen more of her, of her background. I think she could have been a much more interesting story than what we saw of her.
They're banking on using her more in probably the next series in the franchise.
Yeah, but if you keep going, we'll wait till the next one for this one, and then you don't put your goods forward, you get a crappy movie.
It's tough when Will Smith has to get a lot of screen time.
Another big character that we didn't talk about so far was Enchantress.
And Captain Flag.
Oh, and Captain Flag.
Hello.
You know what? He was great.
He was good.
I actually got to say, I was very pleased with his performance. I was very pleased with the way he was portrayed. He was a highlight of the movie.
And you forgot about him.
And I forgot about him.
There you go.
I forgot about him. Well, Captain Flag was in love with the Enchantress.
Yes.
And basically her part in this was the villain. So I don't think we've spoiled anything at this point. Everybody kind of knows that she turned out to be the bad guy. What did we think about Enchantress now?
It was fun. I can't get out of my head the end.
Okay.
What it looked like when she's standing up and the lights are going and they walk up, and what was it?
If I may, because I said this to them as we walked out of the theater, it was Zool.
Zool from Ghostbusters.
It was the whole scene from Zool. She was up from Ghostbusters. She was up on the platform with the lights glowing behind her and her hair blowing in the wind, and they were standing there looking at him and going, "Oh, it's." All I could say the entire scene was Zool.
I was waiting for the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man to come up behind them.
I am the gatekeeper. You're the keymaster.
I am the keymaster.
I was going to say the only thing missing from that scene was the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. Because, maybe they should collab. Maybe Suicide Squad and Ghostbusters should get together, make a little sequel, and maybe it'll help both their budgets out.
There you go.
Jesus Christ. Talking about the storyline.
Oh, boy.
It was a little thin.
to me, we've seen this 100 times. We've seen, you have a deserted city and you have a team of riffraff that they put together and they have to get from point A to point B in the deserted city to stop whatever the big bad is. Mm-hmm. That's kind of the entire plot line of this movie. Mm-hmm. To me, that's not well written.
This it was difficult. I mean, you had, I don't know, how many characters are in the Suicide Squad? 8? Is it 8 or 10?
Yeah,
I don't know. Somebody count on their fingers. But it's like you got all these characters, right? So you had to have all these, I'll use Wayne's line, establishing shots to intro all these characters for an audience like myself that doesn't read the comics, right? So you had the main characters got all of this upfront introduction, backstory, and BS, right? So that cut up and used but a lot of the movie just to intro and introduce each character took up big chunks of the movie, and no way around it. But I think the way they did it in such silos. And then there were certain characters like Katana, who I mentioned. She wasn't included in part of that, and some characters were just slipped in, and so it's just you had a very a mismatch of how some characters were introduced, and it showed throughout the rest of the story too, because they skipped over, I think, a lot of things. They took for granted that the audience would believe in a lot of things.
Well, let's just say, even if you are a comic book fan, you don't necessarily know every one of these characters.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
You may not know specifically Suicide Squad in the comic books. You may know, okay, Harley Quinn and the Joker, and I think most people these days know them. Mm-hmm. And you go, okay, I come to see it for this, and then where did these other characters come from?
Right, but I felt like in the beginning when they were listing it, I felt like it was a video game.
Yes.
Like when they listed the category, there was, I forget what it was, there was a Batman video game where you went and clicked on the character, and it was everything listed exactly the way that
I know
that Viola Davis was explaining the characters, like Alias or whatever it was. It seemed I think
it was purposeful. I mean, I think they tried to pull from that a little, probably so they already had their liners set up for the video game that they're going to try to make from this movie.
There you go.
So
they didn't even have to re-record it.
I know. I think it was purposeful that it was like video game-esque.
Yeah.
Whether you like that or not,
All right, well, let me tell you something. 2014, I don't think either of you have seen this. There was a cartoon out there called Batman Assault on Arkham. And basically the idea was, it was the Suicide Squad. It was the first real cartoon movie that was put together about the Suicide Squad. The storyline in there was basically that Harley Quinn, they assembled the team. Amanda Waller assembled the team. She blew off somebody's head. Just a lot of the same attributes that we had on here. And then Deadshot and Harley Quinn actually fall in love. And then you have the conflict is that the Joker is coming back now. And the Joker is involved with this. And the storyline was 1,000 times better than the big blockbuster movie we just saw.
Right. So you're saying they should have used that storyline?
They should have absolutely used the storyline from Assault on Arkham. And if you haven't checked it out, check it out. It's on, I think it's on Netflix.
Yeah, we'll leave a link. We'll leave a link on the site.
And, Batman Assault on Arkham, 2014 came out and hit the storyline right on the head. And then we do it how many years later, and they miss it.
Yeah. Well, a lot easier with a comic or an animated series than an animated feature than a full screen feature.
All right, you're gonna get judged on the reality of the characters and how they function. But you know what? The story still has to be there, intact.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
We didn't have a story in this. There was no story.
Yeah, I mean, it was so thin. I mean, you had the Enchantress and her brother who create the big bad, because basically the brother is trying to save the sister, and his sister, the Enchantress, because they have her heart.
Yeah.
Right? So they're controlling her power because they have her heart. And the brother comes to try to rescue her.
Well, you want to get really into comic books with this? The Enchantress back in comic books, the Enchantress was possessed by another entity. And then another entity was the brother, had the brother. And then that was why that happened. But they just said it was the Enchantress's brother. Mm-hmm. Like, the Enchantress played a bigger role in the Suicide Squad as opposed to specifically just going, okay, she's here to be the big bad.
Gotcha.
So, they're changing things and they're doing it. I get it. And I get that they use that character. they should have watched this other movie first.
Maybe somebody did and they just didn't care.
Yeah. Well,
but overall, I was disappointed. I looked forward to this movie, and it just didn't do it for me. I think I'd have to say, as far as the summer blockbusters go, that Marvel won the summer. I mean, Civil War by far, but I also would rank the X-Men movie higher than Suicide Squad or Batman vs. Superman. So.
Yeah, I mean, if you just go through, if you go to Google and type in Suicide Squad, the amount of disparaging news is terrible, right? Post Suicide Squad, the characters are its greatest strength and weakness. How Warner Brothers can recover from suicide and save the DC cinematic universe, meaning it's in, dire straits. Hollywood has ruined method acting, and it's a direct correlation to Jared Leto's interpretation of the Joker. You got the stylist fakery of Suicide Squad, and last but not least, you got Suicide Squad shows why Marvel's movie universe works and DC's does not.
There goes your comment.
And that's harsh. Yeah. I mean, if you pit, DC versus Marvel, you got a lot of people on the Marvel side who are jumping for joy.
Yeah, just a lot of things went wrong with this film. There's no two ways about it.
Yeah.
I think we're all in the same boat about the outcome on that.
Yeah, none of us walked out of there feeling like, oh my God, it was the greatest thing I've ever seen. Nobody.
Well, let me ask you, is it the high expectations that we had going in? Because, I mean, we all heard about the getting bashed by critics and everything before the movie came out. Yeah,
on last week's show, we talked about the Rotten Tomatoes issue where the diehard fans of Suicide Squad were crying that, the Rotten Tomatoes critics got it wrong. That this is a fan movie. It's still fun. You don't know what you guys are talking about. I mean, we're fans. I mean, we happen to be filmmakers at the same time, but we're fans, and it was disappointing.
Yeah, I still went in. I always try to go in and form my own opinion and not listen to it. So I still went in with high expectation.
So, I mean, there's other elements as filmmakers. I think we pick apart things like the soundtrack, the cinematography, and some other elements. So,
let me get right into the soundtrack if I could jump on your
by all means,
speech there.
By all means,
the soundtrack, we had hit after hit after hit of like poppy songs right in the beginning, and it was like, to me, it was every shot was a different song.
Yeah.
And it was so distracting.
It was. That was the problem for me. It felt like every 2 minutes there was a new song.
Yeah,
it was just too much song after song. It wasn't that the songs were a problem, but it was just one after the other and for a while in the beginning, and it was just like, what?
And I think you said it best. The songs, because they were so popular, they took you out of the movie for a minute. So because you were just like starting to hum along to the song. I mean, you had Eminem's "Without Me." You had there
was Rolling Stones in there. There was Jack White. Was that Seven Nation Army came in there?
Yeah. Dum 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 dum, which is at every sporting event ever now.
And it's not on the soundtrack though.
No, but it wasn't even that the songs were bad, and I'm not bashing the songs. It was just that they were one after the other. Every 30 seconds, the next scene had a new song. It was like, what?
Was Bohemian Rhapsody in there? I'm looking at the soundtrack.
Yes, it was. Yes. When Harley's hanging in the cage.
Oh, yeah. Good scene.
Yes.
It's funny how you can not like a movie so much, but like you think back, there were definitely some good, there's definitely watchable scenes in there. It's just, it didn't come together as a whole.
All right. Well, we wanted to talk a little bit about the cinematography.
Yep.
Some really beautiful shots in there. Thinking about the Harley Quinn scene there, with her hanging in the cage, the lights that were coming through, the visuals that they were capturing with that. Zack Snyder, who did the Batman vs Superman, was also a producer on this, and I feel like there was a lot of beautiful moments with nothing in between. If that makes any sense. Like there were a lot of to me it was like a lot of beautiful comic what are those called? The windows that the comic books are in. Why am I forgetting?
Visuals, do you want to say?
Okay.
Pulled right out of the comics. Panels. The comic panels. And it was like they took shot after shot after shot was comic panels. And that's what Zack Snyder did with Batman vs Superman. You saw those comic panels that came out, and I feel like they tried to do it, and they got some really beautiful moments, but the rest of the movie was like really dark and drab, like you couldn't see anything.
Yeah. Yeah, the rest of the movie. I mean, I think a lot of superhero movies in the past, I mean, like Batman in particular, has been slammed for being too dark in the past. Cinematography,
sure.
a lot of them, they try to go with that dark element, and it really makes the film almost unwatchable in some regards. I mean, I didn't find this film that dark, because I remember some of the old Batmans where I was like, wow, dark, you couldn't even see what was going on. This wasn't as dark as that, but this definitely was borderline.
Well, that's it for the podcast today. If you agree with us or disagree with us, hit us up on Twitter at Heckler Kane Inc. If you would like to check out the podcast or the rest of the podcasts, it's at hecklerkane.com.